And it's still transcribing. Okay, I think we've got it now. We should be recording only, no transcription. So we will go ahead and get rocking. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday. Everyone, do me a favor and please mute your microphone when you're not speaking, but do feel free to leave your camera on because we love to see smiling faces. For those of you who have not joined us before, Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday is an opportunity to see inside the mind of investors as they provide feedback to company presenters. The purpose of Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday is not to secure an immediate investment. Rather, it is a teaching opportunity for participating companies and for members of the audience. Each of our quarterly meetings will feature a panel of 3 active investors and 3 startup or early stage companies. Each presenter will have 10 minutes to pitch, followed by 10 minutes of feedback from the investor panel. We will not be taking questions from the audience. However, if you do want to ask a question or make a comment, you can use the chat function, which should be located in that little conversation bubble at the top of your screen. So we're going to go ahead and get started this morning by having our esteemed panel of investors introduce themselves. I'm going to go ahead and start with David Bloom. David, I see you're here. Can you unmute and introduce yourself, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me okay. All right.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Some of you I know. Hi, everybody I don't know. And hi, I'm David Bloom. I'm an engineer, an entrepreneur, an angel, and an educator. I'm working out of Chelsea, Michigan, which is about 90 minutes east of Kalamazoo. Visit Kalamazoo often. My mom is from Kalamazoo. And Sandra and I know each other going back 20 years or so in the economic development and entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'm currently engaged as the exec director of Pointe Angels. We are an independent investor club on the Grosse Pointe communities on the east side of Detroit, focusing on early stage technology ventures. We are absolutely segment agnostic. We will invest in anything that has a good opportunity to provide the kind of returns that angels in this asset class seek. Those typical returns, as we learned from Professor Brophy, are 58.8% internal rate of return. That's a 10x return in 5 years. If you can get it bigger or faster, you've got my attention.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. Next up, we're going to introduce himself, Rob Ball from CultivateMD. Say hello.
Hi, my name is Rob Ball. I'm a Michigander, but happen to be in Arizona at the moment. I helped to found a company called Genesis Innovation Group in 2013, which is a very early stage medical device investor. We like to characterize that we invest both financial capital and human capital. We have a team of in our ecosystem just under 100 professionals that can really just stand up a medical device company really from a napkin sketch, if you will. So that's where we focus. We invest financial capital through our funds, CultivateMD, and of which we're on our 3rd fund, and have enjoyed investing in many medical device technologies all over the medical device space: orthopedics, cardiology, imaging, et cetera. So I currently also serve as the CEO of Shoulder Innovations. We are a later stage venture-backed commercial stage orthopedic company selling a very innovative shoulder arthroplasty technology. So things are going well there. So nice to meet everybody.
Rob, you and I think, are both in SpinTech.
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Cultivate is in SpinTech. That's right.
Yeah. Excellent. So small world, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Well, at this point, I would have had Tom Nastas introduce himself. I don't know what's happened. I apologize that one of our panelists is MIA, but we're going to go ahead and proceed forward with the 2 wonderful panelists that we have. And if Tom joins us later, we'll bring him in. Our presenters today in order will be Nick Theoret from the Centri Group. We're also going to have Laurent Savoy of Spike Neuro, and finally Tom Nastas with InterJad. So Nick, if you are ready, we're going to have you share your screen first to make sure we can see.
Sounds good.
I will set my timer.
All right. Is it coming through?
We're seeing ourselves.
Very good.
There we go. Can you put it in? Yeah, presentation. Perfect. Okay. Nick and panel, if everyone is ready. Nick, I'm going to put myself on mute and you can take it away.
Sounds good. And just to confirm, Sandra, it's 10 minutes.
It is 10 minutes from when you start. So please
Right
have
on.
your timer going, but I'll have mine going as well.
Very good. Rock and roll. So,
Go ahead.
all right. Everybody on the call is mostly with living in Michigan or familiar with Michigan. Michigan is the state that consumes the most amount of propane in the United States. That's residential and commercial propane. And no, not the barbecue propane. I'm talking the big tanks that some people have on their lawns. You guys might even have some in the audience. So in Michigan, there's about 668,000 properties that use this propane. And this propane is delivered by what we call propane distribution companies. These are small mom and pop, distributors. There's about 150 of them in the country. But each year in Michigan, about 33,000 homes run out of fuel. That's 3 to 5% of the whole, propane using population. Also includes commercial. They run out of fuel. And the main root cause for this is that there's a lack of visibility into the propane tanks from the distributor's perspective and, of course, the homeowner's perspective. My name is Nick. I'm a technical founder of Centri. I'm also the director of channel sales at Code Labs currently, which is a Series A funded startup. The reason why I'm in that role is because I'm a Venture for America alumni. But at Centri, what we've done is we've partnered with Audient and Amtech, which are Michigan-based companies, to help deliver and solve this issue right here, which is that lack of visibility. And this lack of visibility leads to three main things for propane distributors. It leads to out of fuel conditions for their customers, which can be dangerous. It can be a liability because, if you can't heat or cook, you can't, that can lead to like frozen pipes and stuff like that. It's not pretty. The second thing is that it also leads to unneeded delivery. So if the propane distributor doesn't know how full your tank is, they don't know when they need to deliver fuel to you efficiently. And the last thing is customer churn. So you can imagine the worst time to lose a customer from a propane distributor's perspective is when they're out of fuel, because they're going to call on every single competitor of yours to make sure that someone can come fill their tank. And if you don't have the ability to fill their tank in that moment, you could lose that customer. So there's a big churn risk when this happens. So at Centri, what we're doing is we're helping propane distributors be more profitable by providing them a connected solution that helps eliminate these out of fuel conditions, helps reduce these unneeded deliveries, and improve customer satisfaction. And we're doing this with a solution set, which is the following. So it's a Centri Connect dashboard, is what we call it. This is what the distributor sees. We have a white labeled mobile app called the My Propane app for the distributor. And then we've got a solar powered tank monitor that works off cellular network. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But essentially, these three pieces allow us to deliver this solution to help optimize the propane distributors. And it breaks down like this. So the solution essentially starts by installing those tank monitors. Then we provide a mobile app to the end user, a white label mobile app to the end user with the distributor's logo. We deploy the dashboard for the distributor. And then from there, the distributor can optimize their deliveries based on the data that they're capturing. Over the past year and a half, we've actually been doing this with Ford Propane, which is a Southeast Michigan-based propane distributor. What they saw in the solution is about 119% ROI that first year. We saved over 80 trips for them. We saved them $7,500 when you count all the trips and everything that was saved there. And we did it with 40 different monitors that we deployed. So needless to say, they were really happy with this pilot, and they actually purchased some more monitors the following year. Now, there's one other thing that we learned in this pilot, which is that there's three other ways we could capture some revenue from this solution. One was through order management. People purchase the propane on their mobile app. That's a way for us to capture revenue. The second is using that white label mobile app as a marketing channel, so they can actually put out ads, put out communication to their customers directly through the mobile app. And the last piece is what we call dispatch as a service. A lot of these mom and pop distributors, they don't have a lot of time on their hand, and they're really working against the pressures of the market. That's like labor pressures and so on and so forth. So being able to actually offload some of this dispatching is a huge help for them. Now, how many other companies out there are like Ford Propane? Well, you've got about 150 in Michigan. When you look at mom and pop distributors like Ford Propane, you've got about 2,100 in the US in total. And the total market, which also includes kind of like these nationwide distributors, you've got about 3,000 of them in the US. And so our business model for Ford Propane and these small distributors is as such. We've got a tank monitor that comes out to about $60 per year. We've got our mobile app, which is white labeled, that we charge at about $100 per month for the mobile app as a recurring fee, and a 1% transaction fee for all the orders that we capture through the mobile app. And then, depending on the distributor and what they like to use, we've got the delivery dashboard that they can leverage. Or if they're already leveraging some type of dashboard, we've also got an integration license that we can use to capture some of that revenue. And then the most important thing here, obviously, is this dispatch as a service model, where you can almost eliminate a position, or at least offload so much work that we can justify about $12,000 a year for that service. Now, our go-to-market strategy with this, as you saw, the solution is very progressive. We can start with the tank monitoring, then move on to the mobile app, then move on. It's a very easy sales cycle from that perspective. So for us, we're identifying regions that use a lot of propane. We target clients that serve between 500 to 2,000 customers. This will be your typical mom and pop distributor. And then we start with low-cost pilots and really a low-cost deployment of that white label mobile app. It's, from their perspective, from a business perspective, mobile app's not that expensive, but at least it gets the product into their end users' hands that can now provide feedback and actually order some additional tank monitors through the mobile app. And we're positioning this as really a dispatch solution that helps to solve these inefficiencies in logistics for the propane distributors. Our competition in this space, for one, it's our solar powered monitor. It's maintenance free. This is a big difference compared to the rest of the competition. And it's also that we're approaching the industry from a software perspective, not as a hardware company, which a lot of these other companies are. And this is where we're really going to differentiate ourselves. That includes that end user point of sale and the dispatch as a service model. Our traction to date. So we've actually, with Ford Propane, we've deployed additional monitors with them. They've purchased more monitors. To date, we've got about 65 monitors deployed with Ford Propane. We've got about 100 other mobile app users. You'll notice that the number of mobile app users is greater than the monitors that are deployed. And that's because they're actually leveraging that mobile app, not just for not for just end users seeing what their tank levels are, but they're actually using it with those that don't have tank monitors, which is okay, because either eventually they'll get to a point where they'll want a tank monitor, so we'll get some pull through from the distributor, or they can at least still order their fuel on that mobile app. Our milestones of what we're looking ahead here, we're looking to close our seed round in the spring of 2023, followed by a Series A in the summer of 2024. What we're hoping is that this seed round can help really ramp up our manufacturing and our inventory so we can start getting sales with the launch of the more AI-based features coming out in 2024. The team, you've got myself as the CEO. You've also got Tom, who's also on this call. He's the CTO. He's also the founder of Audient, and he's got tons of experience in particular in the IoT space and in the electronic space. Now, together, we've been working on IoT projects and products for the past 5 years. So we've got quite a bit of experience working together, and that's why we know this is going to be a successful product. Now, what we're asking for is $1 million for 20% of the company. And what that's going to mainly do is help build out this inventory for the product that's already designed. Like, a lot of the design work has already been completed. What we're really looking for is a way to scale out the manufacturing so that we have a repeatable process on that end, while at the same time helping fund our sales and marketing. If we can get these two pieces together and funded, we believe we can actually start generating quite a bit of revenue to help cover some of these early costs, and then grow the company organically from then on. Our starting valuation, obviously, if we're asking for $1 million at 20%, that means we're starting at a valuation of $5 million. But our target valuation, and this is just focusing on the propane industry, our target valuation is about $50 million. That's what we want to target, and that's in 5 years from now. And our financial projections match this target valuation. There's companies that have done this actually a lot bigger. One of them is Samsara, that's also in the logistics space. They IPO'd in 2021, and for their seed investors, about a 64x multiple. So why now? I'll end with this. Why is this the time to do it? Well, there's four main reasons. First one is connectivity. So today we've got the ability to actually capitalize the cellular service cost, the connectivity of our device into the cost of the device. So all these recurring expenses that you may have seen on a previous IoT device, they don't apply anymore. We can capture all the recurring revenue from the device. The second is the market pressures. Propane is a necessary commodity and propane industry is recession proof. Third thing is that AI is now a scalable technology, as we saw with ChatGPT. And then, of course, there's labor shortages, and 6% of new homes use propane. So I want to thank everybody for listening today. That's my 10 minutes and opening up for questions.
Thank you, Nick. That was great. So we will go ahead and start with feedback. David, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Why don't you tell Nick what you think?
I've been on the spot since he started talking. Full disclosure, Nick did a preview for Pointe Angels in August, and he and I have been corresponding over the last week. He's actually in front of our screening team this week to present later this month. And I just want to say, 6 months of growth. Congratulations, Nick. It's not just the slides and the story, it's the execution and delivery, and that's what we look for. So, and thanks for borrowing my 10X in 5 years into your estimate. You probably chuckled when I was giving my intro.
I did for sure.
Nick, you bury a couple of your strong points, the sales growth with Ford and the non-tank monitor app users. That's huge, especially with these diversified revenue streams. Would have been great to see another distributor, but I know that you're doubling down on Ford. Would have been better to hear more about your VFA story. Those of us who are familiar with VFA really value the education you got in Providence and in your ventures, and that speaks to the integrity of your business. That's the coaching notes off. I got two really tough questions, so sharpen your pencil on this one. Optimizing deliveries. I want to leave dispatch as a service for the next question. Let's just focus on that value stream of optimizing deliveries. Is this an addition to being able to avoid out of gases and avoid unneeded deliveries, or is there an optimization there like a topping or a rescheduling that you're doing in addition to those two, or is optimization kind of roll those two up?
Yeah, optimization kind of rolls those two up. So, and I'll give you an example from Ford Propane's perspective. Obviously, they're keeping an eye to see if any tanks are empty or low. But they might say, hey, we're going to send a truck out on this route. And you know what? The truck's got a capacity for 3,000 gallons. This is kind of all part of that equation. So truck's got capacity of 3,000 gallons. On the way back, you know what? You can top off this customer here. Now they're doing this in their
don't call it optimization. Top off is a new value stream. They couldn't do that before. And tanks coming back full is bad for Ford.
Exactly.
Tanks coming back empty is good. So how you message this shows value to your next and your next and your next distributor who want to achieve all of those advantages that you've shown with Ford. Now I want to really dig in on dispatch as a service, because you have an incredible opportunity in front of you once you get a few distributors in a geographic area. And it reminds me of what Mishcon and Detroit Edison did with IDC. They basically outsourced their grid. So they sell power to a grid, and then the grid goes and distributes it for them. This is what you could be for all of your propane wholesalers. And you might want to not talk about a 10X in 5 years if you're building that business. You might want to either spin that off, grow it bigger, ask for more money. One of the things that I was curious about is you're describing a priced round, but in our correspondence, it was a safe note. We can take that question offline. But the way that you capitalize this business speaks to the kind of business you're wanting to build. Building up inventory and capacity is great if you want to keep this kind of linear growth. We like a hockey stick. We like accelerated growth. So think about if you're asking for enough money to do enough stuff. So that was my feedback. And my last question for you is, Who's your next and your next and your next distributor? You're done with Ford. You've done what you've done with Ford. Who's 2, 3, 4? How does this grow?
So the way that we want to scale this out in particular, and we're going to stay in Michigan just because it's, access is a bit easier, is look at regions. So in the middle of the state, you've got Avery Oil and Propane. On the west side of the state, you've got Crystal Flash as larger distributors, but then there's some smaller ones that are spaced out throughout these regions. So we're going to essentially put a map together, and then based on the regions, and the reason why we want to take a map approach is because these distributors kind of act on territories, and I think there's a certain benefit, there's a certain pitch here for the distributors to say, hey, you're operating this area, we don't want you to compete with somebody else maybe using our same technology, right?
That's an interesting approach if you're building distribution as a service. Have you thought about an auction?
Auction for the end users?
No, for the distributors. Who's going to get Centri? It's going to be one of y'all.
Exactly. Yeah, and there might be ways to also use that as a growth hack as well. So definitely some additional things that we could go into there, but yes, these are all models that we're kind of looking at to get creative on how to grow this thing fast.
All right, I don't want to steal any more of Rob's time.
Yep.
Think about talking about go-to-market. You love your product and you love your customer, but how you grow this is how we get our exit.
Great.
Rob, you're up.
Thank you. Yep. On to Rob. Questions and feedback.
Yeah, sure. For me, so this is the first time I've heard of it. So maybe I'm going to ask a little bit more basic questions. But one thing that's not really fully clear to me is what is the total available market? So if you roll, if you roll your revenue model across the marketplace, kind of where does that go? And then it wasn't clear about what is the cost to the end user, the propane user, if you will, and whether that's acceptable to the marketplace. And the final, kind of question I'll ask here preliminarily is, clearly, if your main customer is those mom and pop shops, they probably aren't usually well resourced to implement a new platform, if you will. So I'm just kind of curious how you're thinking about that and whether that's a constraint to your revenue growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the first question. The market, and we just look at this particular vertical in terms of total available market. It's like about $2 billion in the US and Canada. Now the cost to the end user, this is a really important question. And what we've seen is that Ford Propane, they're willing to buy some propane monitors, which is great, right? But let me take a step back. So they bought some propane tank monitors. They rolled out the mobile app across their customer base. And what they found is, whereas before they may have selected which homes they want to put a tank monitor on, they let their customers that really wanted a tank monitor to pull additional monitors through them. And the cost that they approach end users with is $5 per month per device, which if you look back at our model, it's $5 per month per device. We're charging that to the distributor. Distributor charges that through to the end user. It's an acceptable cost to the end user, because what we found is a lot of these end users that are asking for propane tank monitors is because they have like they're physically incapable of going out to the tank to check it, and if and they have like serious concerns for it. So this is helping them feel more reassured. The distributor benefits, even though there's no really revenue in it for them at that point, they still benefit because they're getting that data, and that data is really what's valuable to them. The cost is irrelevant. So, and the end user, of course, is able to pay for it. So this kind of pass through was actually quite interesting. We rolled this out in November, and we had like 25 sold monitors by the end of December.
Yeah.
And then to your last question there, I know you had a third point. I apologize.
Well, it was just the implementation by mom and pops.
Oh yeah, so implementation by mom and pops. You're right. They're absolutely resource constrained. This is why the way we're approaching these mom and pop shops is in a model where we're making it as easy as possible for them. That includes a piece of technology or device where it's, you you place it. I won't get into the details of the product, but it's the easiest one to install. It takes 30 seconds. And that's a big deal because the amount of time their delivery drivers spend on this has to be zero. It has to be almost non-existent, right, for installing those tank monitors. So we designed that tank monitor that way to make it as easy as possible to roll out. And then also, I mean, not only the resource constraint from a human perspective, like HR perspective, but also from a capital perspective. And so the pricing model that we've built is very cost effective for them. Like, hey, $5 a month gets you started, right? And then we kind of roll this out across your location.
So why are you going through propane distributors? Why not just go directly to the consumer?
So I mean, there's definitely an ability for us to go to the end user directly. But I think that the opportunity for savings and just from a recurring revenue perspective, the inefficiencies in their logistics is really what we're trying to capture here from a recurring perspective. The product itself can stand alone, doesn't have to be sold through distributors. We could probably sell that product as a side, on a side revenue stream through Amazon and through other typical end user channels. But it's really that recurring piece that we're going to capture on the distribution side.
Right, but in the sense of dispatch as a service, I mean, the optimal situation is you're the one with the knowledge about whose tank needs. So you talk about early on about that churn, right? If you become the source of the information about who needs gas in the tank, literally, then you have the most valuable piece of information in the entire value stream, right?
Yep.
Why not just go out and get that information immediately and then solicit from an auction perspective who'd like to fill that demand?
I know exactly what you mean. One example would be if we had enough of these end users that were using propane, then we can also auction off who could deliver propane to them, and it would be kind of an.
Well, it's your dispatch as a service model. You just go straight there, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and
receive the demand expression from your electronic platform, and you determine who can deliver the propane, right? There's no difference between one company's propane and another company's propane, right?
100%.
So the end user doesn't care, right?
Exactly. I think there might be, because we've thought about this model and you're spot on. I think there would be some concerns. We haven't brought this up before propane, but I think they would get very defensive about their business in that situation. That's something to validate, though. It's not, I'm just kind of throwing some assumptions out there, but you're bringing up a really good point. Just
and just one more, I'm sorry, stream of consciousness, but the device that you put on the tank, does it provide functionality as to how much fuel is being used on a, call it a day-to-day basis?
It does, yeah. And what we're capturing is not just the fuel consumption over time, but we're comparing it to averages. And this is another potential revenue stream that we have no time to talk about. But let's say on the mobile app, we can capture what's the size of a home, right? The size of a home is 1,000 square feet. And we notice that person's using a lot of fuel. Like, we can immediately kind of alert that person, hey, your house is really inefficient. Maybe you've got a leak, or maybe there's an opportunity for you to save some additional dollars by just getting things updated. As an example.
I used to live in Europe, and we heated with a boiler with a fuel oil tank, and it was an extremely anxious circumstance because you didn't know how much was in the tank. So at least for me personally, my solution was just to fill it incredibly full, right? I mean, so $10,000 worth of fuel oil. And so I knew that's how you get rid of the anxiety. But then also I had no sensitivity like I do on a monthly basis with a natural gas bill. I know how much I'm using. So I have a sense for how do I get more efficient. I had zero exposure to that, right? I had no idea how much fuel I was using. It was just something you kind of learned when you refilled it next time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my point is that $5 a month seems like a pretty low threshold. If you can go directly to the consumer and provide several points of value to the consumer, you find yourself in the pole position in terms of having the information as it relates to, kind of how do you fill that demand. So I'll leave it there. the last point, and I think we're out of time here, but the last point is, it would be helpful to know more about the competition and their approaches to this marketplace. I suspect you're not the first company to think about how do we, kind of modernize, this problem, let's put it that way. And, it would be helpful to understand, what do you have from an intellectual property perspective? Maybe not much, or kind of what other features and benefits are you providing that are really practical and differentiating relative to the competition? But anyway, those are my points.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay.
Sandra, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay, Nick, if you can unshare. There we go. And I see that Tom Nastas has joined us. Hi, Tom. We got a little sunshine going there, but why don't you go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself? We still have 2 more panelists to go, so
sorry, I'd
love to hear from you.
I had some problems with this computer, so I've been trying to juggle things. Hi, my name is Tom Nastas. Hey, I've been a colleague of Sandra's for a number of different years. I started doing venture capital in 1986. Had a total of 11 funds internationally. Funded Michigan, Canada, 2 in Europe, 3 in Africa, and 4 in Russia and Kazakhstan. It lived overseas for 25 years. And then for a number of years, for about 4.5 years, I sort of did an entrepreneur residence program at both Michigan State and Western Michigan. And now I'm putting together global teams. We do projects overseas. So glad to see everybody. Hi, David.
Great. Well, thank you. So we're going to go with our next panel, or excuse me, our next presenter, Lawrence with Spike Neuro. If you are ready, you need to unmute yourself and show your slides. I won't start timing until you're ready. I can hear you and I can see your slides. So whenever you're ready, I'm going to unmute myself, or I'm sorry, mute myself, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. We are Spike Neuro, a neuroscience development company working to bridge the gap between scientific innovation and commercialization in the neuroscience field. Academic neuroscientists are constantly working to push the boundaries of our understanding of the human mind and nervous system. These discoveries are so cutting edge, scientists must develop their own technology to support their research. These scientists receive millions of dollars in federal R&D funds to support the development and testing of their new tech. However, as is the nature with most academic scientists, they are focused on their research, and once the project is finished, they move on to new projects and the technology is shelved. We see this as an excellent opportunity to leverage these millions of dollars in R&D efforts towards low overhead commercialization of new research tools. Our team identifies promising research technology that meets a common researcher need. From there, we partner with the original innovator and university to license or acquire the technology, get appropriate IP protections, and complete the remaining development needed for commercialization. In short, we take technology and turn it into a product. Then we sell this new tool as part of our product line to other scientists. In many cases, we will also continue to develop the original technology to create new Spike Neuro IP. Spike Neuro is a team of neuroscientist entrepreneurs who, through our experience, recognize and have the skills to act upon this opportunity. We have multiple partnerships already in place alongside active product developments for ready-to-market tools. Our modern neuroscience research is a relatively new, primarily academic market, expected to reach $3.7 billion globally by 2027. However, we believe that neuroscience, in particular, high channel count electrophysiology, which is our area of expertise, will soon see a major expansion into more commercial markets, as evidenced by the launch of Neuralink and other companies' recent success towards FDA clearance of neuroscience products. This path has many similarities to growth seen with the genomics over the last decade. Thus, while we are making our projections off academic-focused market assessments, we expect growth in the field to rapidly accelerate in the coming years. While the US is the largest market, the Asia-Pacific market is rapidly catching up, and we already have distribution in place to serve these customers. We're focusing on developing electrophysiology research tools as it offers the most promising opportunity growth. A full product line, including novel tools to support emerging research areas, will allow us to capture a sizable market share. Our competitive landscape is comprised of highly segmented small companies specializing in niche products. Most of these companies were started by academic researchers looking to commercialize a specific tool along the path to clinical translation. Thus, research tools are not their main priority. The current landscape requires researchers to piece together their equipment from multiple sources and leaves many gaps unfilled. Our neuroscience research customer base is straightforward and well-defined. While mostly comprised of academic labs, we expect the commercialization or the commercial customer base to begin to accelerate. Spike Neuro boasts a well-vetted sales leads list of our sales campaign, along with a large personal network in the neuroscience community. Our business model provides twofold value. For the customer, we are commercializing proven tools that will improve their research while saving them time and resources. For our investor, we are producing a line of quality and desired research tools with low overhead and high margin. We have spent the last 2 years bootstrapped with close to $2 million establishing this business model and moving our initial product line to production. This includes forming multiple academic and industry partnerships, securing testing commitments from key opinion leaders, submitting federal research grants for non-dilutive funding, and working with the Michigan Small Business Center to grow our business, including the receipts of business accelerator funds. We're building a vertical pipeline to support the rapidly growing area of high channel count electrophysiology and neuroscience research. In the simplest sense, the way that the research is conducted, scientists insert neural probes into brain tissue to record electrical activity. They collect the recordings using specialized tools, and then they analyze that data. Neural probes are the key component of advanced electrophysiology research. Until recently, researchers could only record from a handful of channels, providing a limited picture of the brain. They are now capable of recording from hundreds to thousands of channels, opening new areas of research and enabling advanced medical device development. However, data collection tools and analytics systems are struggling to keep up with the transition from collecting megabytes to terabytes of data, as most existing research solutions were built for low channel count recording. By focusing on commercializing tools built around the development of high channel count probes, rather than struggling to adapt older technology, we're creating a product line that seamlessly meets the current researcher needs and is also ready to grow with the field. We are in production and have launched our sales of our high channel count neural probes. This foundational tool makes up the largest portion of the electrophysiology market with an estimated $600 million. As a disposable device, silicon probes are always in high demand, and researchers are willing to pay much more for increased channel counts. We have spent the last year developing our proprietary probe technology for our high channel count probes. Our process increases longevity of the probes, allowing researchers to conduct longer experiments. For the more complex ultra high channel count probes, we are partnering with a leading developer and patent holder. We will launch those probe sales by the end of this year. Data acquisition tools account for $200 million of the electrophysiology market. By the end of this year, we will launch the only system capable of interfacing with multiple ultra high channel count probes, eliminating data sync issues. This advancement allows researchers to purchase a single system from us rather than multiple systems from our competitors. We also have an academic partnership to complete development of the lightest and longest lasting wireless data system in the industry, which, based on our customer discovery, is the most sought after tool in this space. We expect to launch our wireless technology at the end of 2024. Lastly, addressing a major bottleneck in the adaptation of high channel count technology, we are in development of a specialized data management platform offering large data storage, secure sharing, and cloud analytics that will be the first of its kind in the neuroscience industry. Working with expert industry partners, we will be at the forefront of the emerging market, which we estimate to have a market potential of nearly $500 million. Building upon existing technology, we aim to launch our foundational large data storage and sharing solution by late 2024, and to add the high-value analytics feature by the end of 2025. We are seeking $1.5 million to fund the remaining development efforts, support sales of our neural probes, and create runway to option and vet potential new technology. Raising funds will allow us to complete development of our data acquisition system with associated software and fund a small batch production run. Launch of the data acquisition system will also allow us to begin the sales of ultra high channel count probes. During this time, our team will continue to evaluate new technology, develop additional partnerships, and submit new federal research grants. We are currently in discussions around commercialization of multiple new technologies. We also show the timeline for our plans for which we hope to leverage non-dilutive funds to accelerate phase 2 development of our data management project and fund our wireless technology efforts. This chart illustrates our sales projections based on the current market and our anticipated product launches. Our team has years of experience selling within this field, and the launch of our probe sales will provide the catalyst for the adoption of our additional products. Our current probe production will produce over 4,000 probes worth more than $3 million in revenue. To reach these sales goals, we will work to grow our presence in the neuroscience research community through participation in scientific conferences, supporting publications with our research tools, and adding new partners and products. As we increase revenue, we will bring more manufacturing and development work in-house to further reduce the overhead around turning technology into products. We will also expand our sales and support team to support our growing customer base. The emergence of high channel count neuroscience electrophysiology research is incredibly young compared to larger neuroscience fields and other academic disciplines. Virtually all companies serving this space were founded in the last 20 years. And even these companies are struggling to update their technology to meet new research demands. We are entering this space with an eye on the future needs of the field, rather than hanging our hat on the same 20-year-old technology. There are many large publicly traded scientific research tool companies who do not offer a high channel count electrophysiology neuroscience research line. With the shift in research priorities, we anticipate these companies will be looking to expand into this space in the coming years. Rather than pick up individual pieces from multiple companies, we believe our complete product line will be attractive to those larger companies for a successful exit. We are fortunate that our university partners have strong IP teams and will work in our favor by protecting those technologies developed as a result of those partnerships. We will also pursue appropriate protections around internal development projects, resulting in a strong IP portfolio. We are committed to support the research market which eases the burden of clinical regulatory control. However, some of our products have clinical applications. Once we have established a sustainable research line, we will then evaluate options to translate the clinical market along the 510(k) pathway. I'll conclude introducing our team. I'm Lawrence Savoy, bringing expertise in probe development, marketing, and business strategy. Dr. Charlotte Howard, who is also on this call with us, is our resident grant writer and leads our partnership efforts. Dr. Rebecca Girth is our electrophysiology expert supporting product development and sales. And then Scotty Rodriguez is our head of software serving the development needs for all of our products. And thank you for your time, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. And I think I'm going to kick off questions and feedback with Rob this time. So Rob, you're up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was transparently, I was a little bit confused. You started with a business model of, I'm sorry, you're going to hear my dog whining in the background.
Okay.
You started with a business model describing, kind of extracting, valuable research that got shelved and translating that into a product and putting it on the market. But in the end, your company, at least in call it the planning period, the relative near to midterm, is really about probes, right? And so I'm just kind of curious if that front part is a little bit distracting and you would have been able to spend more time teasing out questions that I have about what do these probes actually do? What does that look like? Just a little more practical information about that would be helpful for me personally. I've not been exposed to those before, and who makes decisions about, those, purchasing, which probes to purchase, and what does the competition look like, and why is this probe different than others? That at least for me would have been, kind of perhaps a little bit helpful. Also, commonly in these circumstances, I think the way you actually access the customer tends to be at least as important as the product and its differentiation itself. So it'd be helpful to understand a little bit more about your plans for distribution. Is this a market where there are independent distributors throughout the United States and you're selling to them and they're reselling, or are you going directly to universities, or, to understand, kind of that pathway? And what are the costs associated with obtaining and maintaining a customer in that respect? So those are just a few high-level points that came to mind as I listened. But it looks like a really interesting story, and so anyway. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We're going to jump now to Tom because Tom hasn't had a chance to weigh in yet on anything. So Tom, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I want to sort of second Rob's comments. The discussion, the presentation was very complete, and for me it was too complete. So more, my thoughts are from sort of how you present it. One is slow down. You're talking incredibly fast and you're like really like throwing lots of information. So I would present less information, but maybe some more higher quality information, which is, hey, what is the customer problem that we're solving? And why does this customer problem exist? And really bring that out in the very, very beginning. I got confused. Partially, I think it was just, again, the fast pace of speaking, the very sort of complex slides. I'm a big believer of slides that show a picture and you draw the story around that picture rather than text. It's much more difficult to do that, but I think it makes a better message to the audience who you're presenting to. Those are sort of my comments that I have. Sort of slow down, cut down the amount of your speaking, take more breaths so that people listening can kind of digest, because you're going through it so fast. I was thinking about something, you've already gone down to something different, and I was just getting sort of confused. That's my thoughts.
All right, thank you. And moving on, David, get to weigh in.
Thanks, Sandra. And Lawrence, with all due respect to my esteemed colleagues, you did something that so few presenters do that I kind of appreciated, and that is you didn't like hit the product on slide 1 and then talk about the product for the next 10 minutes. You backed into it by talking about collecting IP after papers are published and collecting research tools, which is probably how this fell in your lap. Was it from U of M?
So this was actually from a couple of different places. So our team itself is actually a kind of a skeleton team from some of the bigger companies within this field, some of the more known companies. We saw that
Lawrence, you need to give the commercial credit. That
yes.
helps us understand why you presented it the way you did. And then to echo what Tom said, sounded like you gave a 15-minute presentation in 10 minutes.
I did, yeah.
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 Get out the cleaver, man.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until almost halfway through that we heard the phrase high channel count brain probes. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're investing in. So Rob, Tom, I love you guys. That was okay. Keep doing what you're doing. But once you get onto that product, then you need to tell us who needs it, how you get to them, and how you sell it. And I think you have that in the commercial experience that you bring to this venture. Before you can trim a little bit talking about harvesting post-publication IP. One of the things I used to love to do in the before times was go to U of M property disposition and just look at all the research equipment that they were throwing away because the paper got published and the lab is on to something else and they got to move that equipment out of there. Honestly, Thermo Fisher should go through there and just harvest a bunch of their stuff that they sold. And I bring up Thermo Fisher. Sandra, you have a close colleague from Thermo Fisher Sales and Marketing, am I right?
Well, it became a Predia, but yeah, we used to have a Predia here, yeah.
Yeah, so Sandra helped me. I did a couple of terabyte health data ventures, and he helped me with one of them, and I think he could help you as well. When you hit that bandwidth level, everything changes. So lead with data acquisition and analysis, and then the probe. The fact that you're reusing somebody's probe presents your biggest go-to-market challenge because you've got to hit these grant writers early enough that they're using your probe. And that's where your ability to network within the neuroscience community in a way that academics do and not in the way that Thermo Fisher does is how you're going to get any growth in the space. What you told us about, though, was that you want to keep harvesting IP and keep doing neuroscience tools. Give us a picture of the epoch of neuroscience research. Are we still growing? Have we leveled off? When does it tail? There's a window here. Like we did a venture a couple of years ago in COVID testing, short window. You've got a neuroscience window. Is it 5? Is it 10? We had our first neuroscience come through the Ross Accelerator 10 years ago. It was Neurable. We ended up losing them to Boston. Do you know Ramses Alcade and Neurable? You know
Yes,
them.
does sound familiar. I believe I've seen them before, yes.
All right, well, I can take that part offline. I'll connect you guys. Talk about your high bandwidth conversation, what you guys are going to talk about. But I circle back on the fact that you talked about the market and the kind of the customer challenge that you have, and then you buried the lead and you talked about the product last. But your use of funds is all about the product. It's almost like a bait and switch. So you have to have alignment between how you're going to spend our money and what your story is. If you talk about something more and spend on something else less, we're left wondering what you really are. So work on that aspect, and then when you reach that alignment, you and I should talk some more, and that'll also be offline. And Sandra, please do hook him up with your Thermo Fisher guy.
Okay, we still have a minute or two. Panelists, any other thoughts or comments from hearing the others speak?
I want to hear early revenue. Where are you selling this out state?
Yeah, so really quick, just to kind of give a background on, I guess, team, and then jumping into that question, it helps. So my background was actually with a company called Neuronexus, and we were developing, they were going through and selling probes that were about 15-year-old technology. That company's been around for over a decade, and the couple of years that I was with them, I actually increased the revenue by almost 160% just by myself.
Oh,
so selling to this field,
lead on that one. Yeah, talk about Neuronexus.
So selling to this field is actually my specialty with probes. Dr. Rebecca Gertz, selling to her field, she worked over at Ripple. She was selling data acquisition systems. So we have the sales capability and know how to go through and maneuver in the field. So we didn't touch so much on that aspect of it, but jumping into, I guess, kind of, how we go through and see the growth and different things like that within this space. We're more so looking to, culminate the leads list, going to conferences, different things like that. Having a large focus of people in a single room is really where these companies go through and kind of accelerate into the portions themselves. So that's kind of going through and basically getting the company out there, getting people to go through and see it, trying to get word of mouth, people to use our products, different things like that, and getting them right when they're starting new labs, especially with campaigns and things like that we're going through and running. Our revenue to date, we started selling neural probes as pre-sale, and that was in December. And we have, I believe, around $15,000 in sales so far, with another 10, 15 companies that or 10, 15 labs that are going through and essentially waiting for us to come out with products so that we can send them samples, they can try it, and that's the bigger factor. So we're basically selling.
Shut up and take my money sales.
Yeah. So we're doing really well with the way that are coming in as far as pre-sales. We have a lot of people excited. We have prices that beat our competitors that have been around for decades. Or a decade, I should say. And we have proprietary technology that actually goes through and takes what's called an impedance level, which in this field, that impedance level is about like 1 ohm, and we cut that in half. So we have a better probe by impedance and then also by durability. So the partnership portion, I do want to go through and kind of just very briefly touch at the beginning. All of our things that we come in, we're not reinventing the wheel, because to go through and do this research and come up with these things, we essentially have to have a whole nother PhD. We have to have, years and years of research, dissertations, whatever. So what we focus on are finding the people that are the outliers and then bringing them in as a product, and then sharing that kind of idea to go through and build these products rapidly. We did our current probe line in 8 months is what it took me to go through and get it from start to finish, from idea that we're going to do it to today. And now we're looking at sales with release and assembly at the end of this February, 4,000 probes. So to go through and do that on a different scale is you know, it's just not doable. And so that's kind of what we touched in. But again, it's a 15-minute presentation with 10 minutes. And so you're not I kind of have to zip by it, but that just gives you an idea of, and we do that with the system, and we're doing that with the data analytics. You know, essentially imagine going through and controlling all neuroscience research data, and then having you know, the analytics platform to go through and back that up. And then eventually we want to incorporate machine learning into that to go through and you know, basically show points of reference where people need to look. So
Okay.
You just
that's
spit out
that. Sorry.
200
Go ahead.
words without taking a breath. You're really a marvel, like Kenny
Yeah.
G, circular breathing.
You told me I had a
Rob,
minute.
Tom, help
Wait,
me
yeah,
out
we're
here.
at the end. We've got to wrap it up.
Okay, I don't have a hard stop. So let me just get a question into Rob and Tom. Did you hear the good stuff in the Q&A or in the presentation?
Well, I mean, clearly, Lawrence's commercial background is perfectly relevant to understanding his ability to execute. So I would think I would have actually started there, right? So at any rate, yeah.
Yeah, I learned more in the Q&A than I did in the presentation itself. Correct.
Good to know. Okay. And there can be, you know, follow up offline. I'll be happy to connect presenters and panelists later. So good stuff. Thank you. We do have one more exciting presentation to go. So everybody stay tuned. Amna's coming up. So Amna, let's see. Lawrence, yep, unshare. And then Amna, you can go ahead and share.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Now.
Okay, yes, go ahead and put it in presentation mode. Excellent. Okay, we can see and we can hear. And so I'm going to put myself on mute and you will be able to take it away when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amna Zaib, and I'm a physician with expertise in evidence-based medicine and clinical research. I'm the founder and CEO of InterJad, which is a training platform for physicians aimed at streamlining clinical research education with medical training. A few decades ago, the field of medicine was introduced to an incredible phenomenon, which is known as evidence-based medicine, EBM. EBM is the application of clinical research to medical practice. Physicians who are trained in EBM are able to read clinical research and see the evidence presented in it in the form of which treatment options work in what subset of patients, and apply this knowledge to make decisions for their patient. And this results in improved outcomes for the patients and also reduced costs of healthcare delivery. Despite these benefits and a very high expenditure on training physicians each year, over 60% of physicians do not practice EBM. The reason for this is inefficient training process. There is no structured curriculum which is used to train physicians in EBM. They do not know which study design to use, how to analyze data, how to interpret data, how to write their research and publish it. On the other hand, the physicians who train, the training physicians who train younger physicians also face problems in the sense that they do not have access to resources and face problems with career advancement. InterJad has built a solution which is based on a standardized and interactive curriculum. This curriculum is clinical specialty specific, which leads to increased engagement by physicians. We also have a gamified simulation, which helps physicians put the theoretical knowledge to gain practical skills. We also provide a roadmap of quality research from start to publication. I'm going to give, I'm sorry? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, continue.
Okay, I'm going to give an example of how a physician trained in evidence-based medicine actually practice it. We may remember the Flint water crisis. the physician who recognized it was trained in evidence-based medicine, and she was also practicing it. Not only was she able to identify that this was a problem in her patients and draw it back to the contaminated water, but she was also able to advocate for her patients and also win a lot of funding grant money for her hospital and university. The technology is web and mobile based. We have a proprietary algorithm which is very hard to replicate as it is based on years of experience of teaching physicians and being very familiar with the topic that we are teaching and how it should be taught in a certain sequence. The minimum viable product has been developed with limited beta testing. We are going to run 3 pilots in hospital systems in the next 2 months. The development was outsourced and the IP is owned by InterJad. The value proposition is for physicians increasing their performance by 35 to 40% in the application of clinical research findings to medical practice. More time for patient care, which is estimated to be about 15%, and increased revenue for hospitals in the form of funding grants. The global market is about 17 billion, and this is the amount of money that is spent in training licensed physicians, faculty, trainee physicians, and medical students. 1.6 billion is being spent in the US, and we are focusing on 164 million, which is 10% of SAM. We have arrived this number through the expenditure on graduate medical education and continuing medical education. And we are focusing on university-affiliated hospitals and community hospitals. And these hospital systems are going to benefit the most from our product based on our extensive customer discovery. The go-to-market strategy is to focus on customers that were part of our customer discovery and who have shown interest in being early adopters. Henry Ford Health System, Sparrow Health System, and Trinity Health. These are also the 3 hospital systems where we are going to conduct our pilot for the next 3 months. Our channel partners are going to be American Medical Association for CME, Continuing Medical Education, the Accreditation Council for Continuing Medical Education to provide credits, and the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, ACGME. The comparative analysis is that there's no other product on the market that is providing specialty-specific curriculum that integrates evidence-based medicine, builds practical skill with a standardized curriculum. These are the results of our beta testing. As you can see over here that knowledge was around 61%, but the application of the knowledge, which is performance, was only about 47%. And after using our software, it increased from 47% to 53%. These are a couple of testimonials from our beta clients. Our team is comprised of individuals who have been working in marketing, in business counseling, and a person who has built her own company and have had successful exits, and she's a technology advisor. I am the founder and CEO. I'm a physician with extensive training in clinical research, and I have worked at different university hospitals. And I have also received an award from the US government based on my publications. This is a continuation of our team. Our board of advisors has been identified. Our technology dev partners are identified. Subject matter experts are identified. And we have also identified academic partners, and we are actively seeking collaboration with them. Our revenue model is subscription-based, and we have got 2 customer segments: graduate medical education, which comprises of 60% of the market segment, and continuing medical education is comprises of 40%. We have 3 subscriptions for GME, Basic, Basic Plus, and Premium. The financial forecast for the 6th year is projecting 35 million in revenue with 25 million in EBIT, with a gross margin of 97%, and COGS to be $750,000. These are our timeline for milestones. The startup is registered with $100,000 in customer discovery, MVPs developed and tested, and we have received 2 business accelerator funds. We have conducted customer validation, established relationships with early adopters, university and technology partners. We are validating our sales process through our pilots and fundraising in early to mid 2023, with our launch towards the end of 2023, and specialty add-ons in the end of 2024. Our ask is $500,000 with $250,000 spent in product development, which would be for the specialty of internal medicine, and $250,000 for salary of the team and the consultants. Thank you for your time, and I'm ready to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amna. We are going to rotate through our presenters. Go ahead and stop sharing so we don't see ourselves. And I'm going to start this time with Tom. Tom Nastas, you're up with your feedback.
So your first slide, it says 60% of physicians don't practice evidence-based medicine. My reaction to that was, holy shit, what are they doing? Number one. Number two is, if they're not doing it, why are they not doing it? Number three is, what is evidence-based medicine? What's its advantages, disadvantages versus whatever people are doing now? I had no clue of that, okay? All right. So I think that from a presentation standpoint, you need to have something that says, hey, look, this is how doctors are trained. Here's the flaws or issues with it. And here's what this methodology is. And we're going to help, I think what you're saying is, we're going to help accelerate this particular methodology of training so there's better outcomes, all right? That was sort of reaction number one. Reaction number two is the slide. Then they had a slide that says your MVP is developed. And I said to myself, what is your minimal viable product? I don't know what that is. I don't know what your solution is, all right? And then my third reaction was a slide that said, I can't remember what was on the left side, but it said the right side, benefits, increased revenue for hospitals. And I said, hey, if you ever read Kaiser Health News about all this controversy with billing for insurance, how people are getting these $200,000 bills that was supposed to be covered by insurance, I said, the last thing I want to do is increase revenue for hospitals. Okay, all right. So I think the benefit is what is the benefit from me as a consumer of healthcare services? You know, I see my physician once a year for my annual physical. You know, I might see him for a few other things or other specialties or other, specialists. What's the outcome for the patient? I think those are the things that came to mind when I was listening to you, but I got really hung up because I didn't know what evidence-based education is versus whatever is being done now. What are the advantages, disadvantages, and how does that help improve patient outcomes? My thoughts.
Okay, I'm going to pop over to David and have you go next. What's your feedback for Amna?
Thank you, Sandra. Amna, Dr. Zeb, excellent innovation. Doing something that corrects the evidence-based medicine gap in physicians. Spot on. And I want to drill a little bit on kind of bridging off of what Tom was talking about with the two value propositions that you stressed. The first one is continuing medical education. I would encourage you, and your Spark coaches probably as well, do not present Accreditation Council for GME, Accreditation Council for CME, and the AMA as channel partners. They are not channel partners. They are not selling for you. At best, you are listing in their catalogs. What you're probably getting from them is a trust mark, something that says that you've passed some bar and that allows CME dollars to then be spent on this type of education. Then you have to differentiate, because in CME, there's really two markets. There's distance learning, which is what you do, and then there are junkets, where you go off to Bahamas and learn how to stitch up patients better. And that's where most of the dollars go, is in the junkets. But what COVID taught us is that that there's those dollars are not going to return to travel, to destination learning. Those dollars are going to get retained in the distance learning CME market. So you're putting up Coursera is spot on. Figure out how you differentiate EBM and InterJad to compete for those dollars. Don't go after the hospital dollars. I'm with Tom on this one. If the hospitals are now applying for grants, and we have some research institutions on the west side of the state, and Beaumont does this as well, that are looking for diversified revenue streams, those are typically siloed away from patient care, so they don't fall into the trap that Tom is talking about. But also, hospitals are having trouble competing for that because the dollars are fewer and harder to get than patients walking in the door. They really have to want to brand themselves as research institution, and branding is 2 or 3 steps away from a value proposition. Branding says, I have this new imaging magnet, I have this new robotic surgery, and I'm going to buy a billboard on the freeway and talk about how cool my hospital is. Branding around CME is a long putt, Dr. Zeb. Focus on the CME. Second comment was on your proprietary algorithm. Is that the one that's giving you the uplift results, the beta results that you showed us on the slide? Or is that algorithm doing something in service delivery in education?
Service delivery and education.
Okay. That you have a value that is not curricular, that it has to do with your platform, deserves a little more chat. I didn't understand why an algorithm actually is important to what you do. And you just answered that question for me. Third, you're targeting 3 hospital pilots in 2023. Show us your early traction. Where are you at in the very long deal flow pipeline between first touch to first revenue that gets you through the door in any of these hospitals? And if any of them is out of state, talk about that one first. Fourth, to my close and personal friend, Nancy Benovich Gilby, get her names in the right order. NBG. And then finally, in your use of funds, what we investors love to see is that you're spending money to grow the company and to hit milestones. To do that, we understand that you're going to have to buy stuff and pay people, but that's budgeting. That's not use of funds. That's how you're doing it. What you're doing is use of funds. What you're doing is hitting those pilots. What you're doing is taking your MVP to production. What you're doing is hitting a revenue milestone. Not what you're doing is 250K product development, 250K salary and recruitment. That's a means to an end. Talk about the ends.
Okay, thank you. And then we will
Thank you,
wrap.
David.
Thank
And
You're
you.
welcome.
it took me a second to understand what I did to Nancy's name. Thank you very much for your feedback.
Okay.
Thank you. And we're going to go on to Rob.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I mean, really excellent comments, David. I'm sorry to say that you stole a lot of my thunder, but I'll just say on a broad spectrum, I think really David's right in terms of seeking to sell this into the hospital system is a very challenging, pathway. And so you have an inflection point in the marketplace over the past, call it 5 years, including the pandemic, where physicians are indeed transitioning their focus of continuing medical education, which is obligatory, right? And needing to execute on that efficiently. And so I found that your reflection, so when I think about your business, that's indeed the focus, right? How do you get physicians to open their wallet to access your platform and gain CME credits through your platform, right? And so as I think about that, I think your focus needs to be in your presentation about helping to understand your product and why that's differentiated. Because I found your competitive analysis somewhat, I don't want to say dishonest isn't the right word, but not a clear picture, because there's a massive number of opportunities from a CME, kind of accredited, platforms that are remote learning. And so I think it's important to be able to outline that market a little more and how your platform differentiates. And so to David's point, you express that you have an algorithm that improves learning, and that's great. I think almost every single platform would express a very similar slide. They were not very intelligent about it before they went through the training. They went through the training, and now they're more intelligent about it after the training, right? I mean, that's classic. So your obligation, I think, in your pilot is to differentiate or to be able to articulate why is your platform more effective than other platforms in that respect. So, I think you're entering into a very, very competitive space, and it's your obligation, at least at the venture level, to show how you're going to capture a meaningful portion of that market would be very, very high, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So it might be a great business for a sole proprietor, as an example, or for a small group of people to make a nice living from, but it may not be a good fit in the way you've articulated for someone who's seeking a more dramatic return over a relatively short period of time. It's going to be hard to really stand proud from the rest of the group. But anyway, my thoughts. So you have to tune, where do you go get money, right? I mean, that's right.
Okay, awesome. Wow, today's been a great day. Lots of great conversation, great presentations, great panelists. I'm going to start bringing this thing to a close. So let's see here. Okay, so, well, first of all, thank you to all of our presenters today for sharing your really innovative companies with us. We were really excited to hear some great innovation going on, just fabulous work for all of you. And I would also like to give a big thank you to our investor panel. Thank you all for participating and offering such valuable feedback. Sharing your experience is really wonderful, and we're very grateful for that. Lastly, thanks to all of you in the audience who came and spent the day or spent the morning listening and hopefully learning. I do hope that you will all join us again. We'll be back with another version of Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday on April 18th. We'll have 3 more exciting companies. We'll have 3 new wonderful investors to be on our panel. So please join us if you can. You can register for it and any other upcoming events at our website. I have dropped the link to our calendar in the chat. So feel free to go visit our website, see our calendar, and register for anything that you would like. Again, thank you to everyone. Thank you for your participation, for your attendance. I wish you all a wonderful day, and I do hope to see you again next time. So thank you, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for organizing, Sandra.
Thank you. Bye-bye.